Alright, what's good everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Here's a video regarding when to and how to validate a 15-second time frame. Now, first things we need to go over, foundational stuff, grab your notebook, whatever you're taking notes on. We do not watch a 15-second PA. We are not just sitting on a 15-second time frame hoping for 15-second CISD at any random moment. The only time we validate a 15-second CISD is based on specific criteria on the 1 minute time frame, and that's what we're going to go over. A lot of people talk about how volatile, how quick the 15-second time frame is, and that's completely true. But we're not just watching the 15-second time frame. We only drop down to a 15-second time frame based off specific criteria on the 1 minute time frame. So hopefully that makes sense. Now the example, so we're gonna do this lesson in regards to an example of a most recent trade I've taken, which was on the 1st. Now, a lot of you guys have already figured out how we validate a 15-second time frame. Reason why is because you study my trade reviews, you attend the calls, you watch the market reviews, and you already understand this because you actually studied under me. Now, nonetheless, I still want to make a specific video on this just to make sure that there is no confusion. So when we are going to validate a 15-second time frame, we have to have everything else checked off. A 15-second CISD is the final thing that we check off. What we want to see before that is everything else in regards to my model. We need to have a clear narrative. We need to have a clear drawn liquidity. We need to have higher time frame sequential SMT and a lower time frame sequential SMT or cracking correlation. And in reference to the trade we're going to go over, we can see very obviously that higher time frame is bullish. So do we have a clear narrative? Yes, we're not like we were back here. We're very obviously trending right now. We're trending higher. We're bullish. Do we have a clear drawn liquidity? Well, at this moment where we were in reference to price, yeah, we had a clear drawn liquidity being EQ of this range right here. We had EQ of the daily range, which was currently unbalanced. So we would anticipate us price to rebalance that range. So we had a clear low-hanging fruit being EQ the range, and then a clear drawn liquidity higher being all-time highs. So yes, first two things are checked off: clear narrative and clear drawn liquidity. Now higher time frame sequential SMT. As we can see here, when price is mitigating that daily BISI, which I forgot to mention, with higher time frame narrative, we're currently mitigating a daily BISI. Now this daily BISI is not mitigated on YM or ES when NQ does, giving us a clear daily SMTF. So we immediately have a higher time frame calculation to support longs. To additionally support that, we are tapping into that daily, or we can say this, our weekly DFR projection perfectly aligns with the daily SMTF. We mitigate that at the same time we trade into the projection. As we can see, we run out the previous day low during Q2. So we run out the Q1 low during Q2 on NQ. We fail to do so on ES. We fail to do so on YM. I'll just give you guys a brief drawing right here, just to make it very, very obvious. As you can see here. So we have weekly cycle sequential SMT, aka previous day low SMT. And on top of that, we can see that we also have, again, in the proper time frame alignment, we have a 1 hour PRC swing divergence, or you can say PSP swing divergence, whatever. It's technically a PRC. 10 a.m. up down close on NQ and ES, up close on YM. We soup it on NQ, and on ES we fail to soup it on YM. 1 hour PRC swing divergence. Now in the proper time frame alignment, once again, we also have 90-minute sequential SMT, as you can see right here. Q3 on YM does not get ran out on during Q4. However, we do run it out on ES. We do run it out on YM on NQ. As you can see, again, just to make things simple, I already have the Q2 low marked out, or the Q3 low marked out here. We'll mark out the Q3 low over here. Nope, right there. And we can see very obviously that we are way beneath it. Right here and here. Run out on NQ, run it out on ES. So we have 90-minute and weekly cycle sequential SMT alongside a 1 hour swing divergence, or 1 hour PRC swing divergence. As we can see here, when price trades into that, the daily BISI, which I'll mark out over here. As price trades into that daily BISI, into our DFR projection, our weekly DFR projection, what do? Well, we form a 5-minute swing divergence. So we have a 1-hour POC swing divergence, and we have a 5-minute swing divergence as well. As you can see right here, failure swing on YM, lower low on NQ, and on ES. Then on a 1-minute time frame, which again would be the next proper time frame alignment, as we had weekly cycle drop down to a 1-hour time frame, 1-hour cracking correlation / 9-minute sequential SMT, drop down to a 5-minute time frame. Now we have a 5-minute cracking correlation, drop down to a 1-minute time frame. I think you guys are starting to understand what we're getting at here. So now we have a 1-minute PSP swing divergence. Down close candle here on at 11:14. Doji candle, so not really looking at ES, and then the up close candle on YM. While failing to soup the previous 1-minute candle's low, while we do so on NQ. So then we have a 1-minute PSP swing divergence on the indices. This is what validates us to drop down to a 15-second time frame. Specifically this. We had all the previous criteria, so we had everything else checked off: clear narrative, clear on liquidity. We had weekly cycle sequential SMT alongside a 1-hour / 90-minute sequential SMT, which is more of a middle time frame, and then low time frame sequential, low time frame cracking correlation. Well, that was a mix of the 90-minute, the 5-minute swing divergence, and then next on an even lower time frame, we had a 1-minute PSP swing divergence, and this is what validates the lower time frame CISD entry. This specifically on the 1-minute. So we had everything else according to my model checked off, but specifically what is going to dictate whether or not we enter off of a 1-minute CISD here or a 15-second CISD would be the cracks and correlations that we see on the 1-minute time frame. Now, there's no issue with entering off of a 1-minute CISD at this moment. It's just that we can get a more optimal and a better refined entry on the 15-second time frame at this moment. So that specific criteria that we just took note of on the 1-minute time frame is then what validates this 15-second CISD right here. Closes above, there's our 1-minute CISD, stop loss for about 15-ish points, TP wherever it was, EQ of the range, which was generally around here, I think. And as we can see right here, what risk reward does that give us? Pretty significant one. Yeah, roughly 15 point stop loss, TP at our drawn liquidity being EQ the range, just under a 1 to 10 risk reward. This is how you get such high risk rewards with our model. So just strictly focusing on the 1-minute time frame, sure, you're gonna get a 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5. But if you want to get a 1 to 8, 1 to 9, 1 to 10, consistently, you're gonna be focused on the 15-second time frame, and this is how I get it. Because it's like, where else are you gonna put your stop loss? Where else are you gonna put your TP? You're just simply getting a refined entry on the 15-second time frame. Now, it's going to be crucial to collect a ton of data in regards to this. Like we talked about in the beginning of the video, we're not just watching the 15-second time frame. We have to see specific criteria based off the previous time frames that we were just talking about to then validate a drop down to a 15-second time frame. But ultimately, this is what your trades are going to look like. Now, that was just a reference in regards to how you could have caught low day from the first. Now, let's talk about in reference to the trade that I did take. So I did take OTE as my entry here. Like I missed my initial 1-minute CISD entry just because I wasn't on a lower time frame at the moment, so I wasn't able to get a 15-second CISD either. But let's talk about what you could have entered off of within OTE of the range. So I quote unquote gambled off OTE. We already had everything checked off. It would be no different if I were just to enter off of the 1-minute CISD, but there was a very nice entry on the 15-second within OT of the range. So we're going to go over that one really quick as well. So as you can see right here, high to low, OTE, price trade. So within OTE, we mitigate this 1-minute SMTF. While doing so, we form a 1-minute swing divergence. Now, I'm not marking this as a PSP. I'm marking it simply to show that that is the swing low on ES and NQ. However, right here on YM, that is not the swing low at 11:42. So 1 minute swing divergence, and that then validates us to drop down to a 1 minute time frame, or a 15-second time frame. And as we can see on the 15-second time frame, at that moment that we formed that 1 minute swing divergence, we already had that 15-second CIZ. So it's like, as soon as we get that, it's like boom, you can immediately enter. And that's essentially all it is. If you want to really be safe, you can wait for the 15-second candle to close, such as what you would have done right there, and then enter at the same place. That then validates another 15-second CID entry, stop TP or to be generally around the same, and you're looking at a 1 to 4.5 at this moment. So again, another pretty nice risk reward, but that is again how you can utilize that as a continuation entry, not just trying to catch the perfect reversal. And don't get me wrong, this is technically a lower time frame reversal, but nonetheless, you're playing continuation of what was already in play. But otherwise, hopefully that makes sense. I believe I covered everything I wanted to talk about, but I mean, it's very simple. This is not complicated stuff. It's just a matter of understanding when we can actually drop down to a 15-second time frame and not just sitting on the 15-second and just getting caught up in this quick price action. But yeah, that is generally what the trades are going to look like. Again, this is simply how you get a high risk reward, tight stop loss, high risk reward. And yeah, otherwise, any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, that is a general breakdown of how we validate 15-second entries. I'll see you guys all in the next video.